Well, the West is sour grapes over the Belt and Road Forum for International Collaboration, or Cooperation rather, which is happening this week in China. Western media will say this is proof that Russia and China want to take over the world. But is that actually true? Remember, this is an economic forum, not a military conference. We asked Carl Zha to join us. He is coming to us from China, where he's been covering this. He's an expert on Asian politics and host of the Silk and Steel podcast. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from China today.
Thank you for inviting me, Natalie. I rushed down the Great Wall to join your interview, so I'm very honored to be here.
That's amazing that there is such a collaboration because, like you said, you're reporting for RT. And I had asked, is that hard to do to report from RT from the Great Wall of China? Did you need special permits? And what you had told us before we started recording is that there is an interesting collaboration between Russia and China, and why that seemed like it was not so difficult. Maybe I couldn't just do it, but for these powers, tell me a little bit more about the collaboration between Russia and China.
Well, President Xi Jinping visited Russia earlier this year, and he has famously said to President Putin that right now we're witnessing changes that haven't been seen for the last 100 years. And you and I are driving those changes together.
变局是一部分，我们共同来推动。
Это как раз сейчас перемены, которые не было в течение 100 лет. Там, где вместе двигаем эти перемены. Перекиньте, пожалуйста, дорогой друг.
I think that point is driven home by the images that's coming out of the Belt and Road Forum right now. When you see the door opens up and President Xi Jinping and Putin are leading the rest of the world leaders marching into the Great Hall of the People. And it's quite a powerful message, and it really shows this is arrival of a new world order, and the West is not part of it.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about this Western narrative that these developing countries don't understand the debt that they're taking on from China. What is it that the West thinks they don't understand? It's kind of laughable because most of those countries are more beholden to Western debt organizations like the International Monetary Fund. But what is it that maybe they do understand, and why would China do this?
Well, a lot of the Western reportage on China is 100% projection. They're projecting onto China what IMF and World Bank actually does, which is debt trapping nations in the global South to Western finance, and then in the end, extracting resources from countries like Africa to European capital like Paris, London, or to Washington. And again, what they don't understand, what China do is fundamentally different, because what China has done in the past few decades is they have built up China from a very poor agrarian country into an industrial powerhouse. In doing so, they built world-class infrastructure. You foster a host of Chinese companies who are catering to building infrastructure, fostering this growth. But now China is getting increasingly built out. China already have amazing bridges, amazing high-speed rail network. What Belt and Road Initiative is designed to do is export this excessive Chinese industrial capacity to the rest of the world, where development is desperately needed, where there's desperate need for more roads, for ports, for high-speed rail. Where I stay normally in Indonesia, the fourth most populous country in the world, China has built Southeast Asia's first high-speed rail from between Jakarta and Bandung, traveling at 350 kilometers an hour. Natali, Indonesia now has high-speed rail before United States. I don't know when US will ever get its own
Oh my
high-speed rail
goodness. Don't even
network.
talk. I'm from California and the whole, Los Angeles to San Francisco high speed rail. What a mess. I don't think that will ever happen. So we can sort of look on in envy.
Yeah, this is why I think United States should just get over its sour grapes and join the Belt and Road Initiative, and maybe China will help US finally build a high-speed rail in United States. Let's not forget the first cross-continental railway in China was also built with Chinese labor. They can do it again.
So I want to ask you about two politicians specifically that showed up. You mentioned Russian President Vladimir Putin, but also I want to ask you about Viktor Orban, who is a leader of a NATO country and an EU country. And his attendance at the Belt and Road conference is being looked down on as if he went to the wrong side of the playground. So can you tell me about the reception of Vladimir Putin and also the attendance of Viktor Orban, from the leader of Hungary?
So when President Vladimir Putin walked into the Great Hall of People and delivering his speech, several delegates from EU countries actually walked out. And this is a very childish, immature action because Europe desperately needs Russia. Europe needs Russian energy. Europe is suffering right now after the deadly terrorist attack on German critical infrastructure project, that is Nord Stream 2.2. And the effect of that is the German industrialists are now plucking their plants from Germany and shipping them to United States. So essentially, U.S. policy is cannibalizing its so-called European partners by really vassal states to shoring up its own faltering economy. So this is not good for Europe, and European leaders like von der Leyen or Joseph Borrell, they have acted nothing more than spokesperson for Washington rather than defender of European interests. What Viktor Orban has done is he stood standing up for Hungary's national interest because he realized that Hungary could not function by denying Russia its own place, a link as an energy partner of Europe.
Now, you mentioned that this is not a military conference, but it almost is impossible to leave military conversation out of this because we're looking to leaders of the world to have a response to Israel. Also, just today, there was a congressional report that said that Russia and China are major existential threats, and the United States needs to prepare for nuclear threats, ramp up its own nuclear arsenal. Is this one of the things that will prevent international collaboration, do you think?
Now, when President Xi Jinping gave his opening address at BRI, he specifically said the BRI is not about dividing the world into blocks. That's not what's it for. What BRI is inviting countries from all over the world, including Western countries, to sit down and talk over their differences, especially in this time of increasing geopolitical instability, as you mentioned, the conflict between Israel and Palestine. And not only to settle their differences, but to cooperate together for future development. So what China and Russia are offering is a vision for the future, a long-term future, whereas Washington and its European lackeys are sticking to the old forever war. They offer nothing but military bases, more weapons for Israel, and this continual impoverishment of their own citizens to lining up the pockets of military-industrial complex.
Thank you so much for that analysis. It's always great. You can follow Carl Zaw on Twitter or X, as it were. And where can we find your coverage of this more extensively, maybe for RT?
You can find it on RT.com, or you can find it on Rumble or Odyssey.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'll be watching out for that because I especially want to see those shots from the Great Wall of China. Thank you again for taking the time to be on Redacted.
Thank you, Natalie. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.